It is Bronze and Modern Gods. I'm John, and that's not Richard. Who are you, stranger? Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you Richard's replacement, Evan. Hi, Evan.
Hey, how's it going? It's good to be back on the show.
I know. Richard is not gone. He is close to being gone. He's in Florida.
Right.
I mean, he's not at Sarasota if you're waiting for him to report live from CGC about the delays. He's actually on vacation with his family. So we are giving Richard a break this week. And Evan has so graciously stepped in to substitute for our mutual good friend, Richard. And live from the wilds of Cleveland, Ohio, we placed one Clevelander with another Clevelander.
Yeah, no, you guys gave me the call, and I said, I'm good to go, Coach. Put me in. Let's do this.
Well, Evan, where can they find us on Facebook and Instagram?
So they can find us at Bronze and Modern Gods.
And also
bronzeandmoderngods.com.
And if you like this video and you like what we do, please show it. Give us a like, a subscribe. We hit that notification bell so you know when our bonus episodes go live. And also leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Today, Evan and I are going to talk about Marvel and DC plot moves, big changes in the plots of these books that we actually read. It's more than just about collecting and buying and selling. Believe it or not, we read them as well. And we're going to discuss a few of the things that have caught our eyes recently. But first, it's our hot book of the week. Evan, have you heard of Stray Dogs?
The very first time I heard of it was today, and I learned about it from you.
It is very interesting. Stray Dogs is a horror, funny animal cartoon hybrid. I've seen it described as Silence of the Lambs meets All Dogs Go to Heaven. If you are familiar with that movie, that reference.
So weird. So weird.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but I guess I can tell you the main plot is about a serial killer who collects the dogs of his victims and brings them all home to live together. And then the wackiness and horror ensues. Each issue of this 5-issue miniseries has a B cover that has featured a riff on famous slasher horror movies. Like there's a Friday the 13th one, an Evil Dead one, a Halloween one, a Silence of the Lambs one. And that's what's really driven interest in this book, is this kind of crazy riff on these horror movie tropes with, funny animals, dogs. There was a set that came out this week of issues 1 through 4, all later printings. You can buy them as a set, and it's selling for about $60 to $75 in comic shops and on eBay. And no spoilers, but it's definitely not for kids.
No.
And
you sent me the link, and I went out and looked at the first 6 pages of number 1. And my first thought was, I believe I said to you, well, this is just adorifying. It's really weird. And then I did some reading on the creator. His inspirations were All Dogs Go to Heaven and Memento. How do you make that work? It's really strange.
Well, we're finding out it's a great read. I'm reading it as well, and I can see why it's ready-made for a movie. Now, going to have to be not on Disney Plus,
no,
but I could see it on Netflix, or even the theatrical R-rated release would be very interesting. Tons of speculation on this because it's so movie ready. First printings of issue 1 are selling for $80 to $95 on eBay. 9.8 slabs are already going for nearly $400.
Wow.
This book is 4 months old.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a little secret, Evan. A lot of comic shops haven't picked up on this. I still found some on the shelves this weekend when I was out and about, and we'll see a report later today on a new feature. There's a little teaser for you, but you're over there in the Midwest. You might be able to go to a couple shops there and just grab these right off the shelves.
Yeah, I think I might. I'm not really surprised by that. As somebody who goes mostly DC and Marvel. Mm-hmm. A little teaser for later in the show. I would have blasted right past it. Probably wouldn't have even, especially with the art, I would have just assumed kiddie book and I would have just moved on. So the fact that you sprung it on me today, and I'm like, I've never even heard of this. So yeah, I think it's definitely a hidden nugget for sure.
Stray Dogs, check it out. Others are checking it out for you. You might miss out if you don't move fast. Let's move on to our main topic today, Evan, and that is Marvel, or in your case, DC and Marvel. I'll flip it for you because I always end up favoring Marvel on this show, and I should do that. They're both equally awesome. I almost said it with a straight face. All these different plot points, and I can tell you, your experience with Stray Dogs, not knowing about it until today, was a little bit of my experience about Infinite Frontier when you started talking about this. Let's talk about Infinite Frontier first, okay?
Sure.
Here's what I know, and you beyond that, Infinite Frontier is yet another relaunch. No,
it's the relaunch.
Well, that's what they said about the New 52, but go on.
Agreed. So Infinite Frontier is the introduction to. So it's funny that we're talking about Marvel and DC, because one of the things I thought about as I was doing the prep for the show was, of all the times for these comic companies to revisit in a nostalgic like love fest, the 90s is just the weirdest time to go back to the well for. So what we'll talk about Marvel in a minute, but DC is tapping into that crisis, whatever, how many infinite crises they've had over the years. And now and we'll see how long it lasts. And that's kind of my problem with what these things that happen involve, because the concept is great. We'll see how these writers deal with it. When the next set of writers come along, if they poo-poo this whole thing, it'll just go upside down. So Infinite Frontier is the introduction of the Omniverse for DC.
Well, you know who coined the term Omniverse?
Is that a Morrison thing?
Mark Grunwald.
Okay.
70s, he had a fanzine called Omniverse, where he tried to tie everything together, all the multiple universes of all the different comic book companies. And people always associate Mark Grunwald with Marvel because he was there for years and years and years, had a hugely influential run on Captain America and Quasar. And he was really a DC fan. That's why Squadron Supreme was his riff on the JLA.
Sure.
Pre-Watchmen, by the way, and he was really a DC guy. So that's interesting that they're actually calling it the Omniverse.
Yeah, I would have assumed it was a Morrison thing because he's always a big multiverse guy. Mm-hmm. But so basically, what the higher ups at DC have said is there is an infinite number of universes, and there's an infinite number of dark universes. So just do whatever you want to their creative talent. You can write whatever story you feel like, and you can put it in whatever continuity you want. And so the interesting thing to all of that, though, is there is a Justice League incarnate. And so they're sort of the Justice League of the Omniverse. And then there's also a team of super smart heroes and villains who are tasked with making sure that things sort of stay aligned. So Lex and Vandal Savage and Mr. Terrific, and you go on and on and on.
Vandal Savage is a good guy now?
No, he's one of the villain sides, because they're trying to keep the balance between the two sides of the Omniverse. Now, here's where things get really weird.
That explains things like Batman Reptilian or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay,
so, but now people in the Omniverse, some of them are aware of the fact that they've been rebooted. So Psycho Pirate comes into it at the end of Infinite Frontier #1 in a big way. So laying the groundwork for Infinite Frontier #1, they bring back the Justice League Incarnate. And by the way, if you're interested in characters who are a big part of this that might be fun to watch, President Superman, who Grant Morrison introduced, who's clearly Barack Obama as Superman.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, he was brought in the last crisis. He's the leader of this team. Captain Carrot is on the team, who I have a huge thing for. I own every issue. I have their first appearance in Teen Titans. I love Captain Carrot. And then I think Aquawoman is one of the team members from the gender reversed universe. Anyway, so
people that know about the Omniverse.
Yeah, these are the people who are tasked with being the Justice League for the whole shebang.
Well, it's interesting because, the gut reaction for me is, oh, come on, guys. But then I stop myself and I think about DC in the 60s and 70s, Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth S, the Freedom Fighters world, Earth X, so this is not unheard of.
And I'm starting to get things that I've always wanted, like the Crime Syndicate has their own book right now, which is awesome because I love the Crime Syndicate. Anything we've talked about it on the show before, anytime they show up, I'm in. So I'm a big fan of that book right now. They're also heavily involved in the new Suicide Squad led by Peacemaker. But it's fun to watch all these different universes sort of pop up, and I'm hopeful that this will continue on for some time, because my big fear is always, 5 years from now, the creative team will get reset, and then they'll go, we're going to get rid of the Omniverse, and there will be another crisis, and blah, 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 blah.
Well, you see what happens over on the Marvel Disney side. There's a lot of synergy between the comics laying groundwork for what will happen in the cinematic universe later. We'll talk about Black Widow next week. Sorry, you're going to miss that discussion.
That's okay.
You brought up something very good about Black Widow. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Let's give them a week to watch it. But do you get the sense that this is happening in DC now, that some of these characters like President Superman can be spun off into cinematic things?
I hope so. And I there was all that rumbling about the next Superman film featuring a black Superman. So that could be what that's all about. It could be President Superman for all we know. But so at the end of this issue, they bring back Psycho Pirate, and he's been a big part of all the crises. And he's been the only guy who remembered them all. Oh, him and Metron were the only two who actually remembered all the reboots. Came back in
Animal Man, where they referenced to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So he winds up in Earth Omega, which is the end-all, be-all of the Omniverse, who is led by Darkseid. So they're bringing back Darkseid as the big bad in DC, which is not a bad idea. And Darkseid is using him as his herald, I guess you would say, and redesigns him completely. He's got a brand new look, which is amazing. And so I'm assuming that as we go forward in Infinite Frontier, Psycho Pirate's going to play a huge role, but ultimately Darkseid's the big bad, and I'm fine with all of that. I think that's great.
Are there still books where they're kind of left to their own devices, like Batman, Gotham, where they don't have to deal with all this, or are they all kind of tied in some way or form?
So right now, it seems like the main DC books are still dealing with the ramifications of the last event that DC had, where everything was like 5 years later.
Oh, right.
So like Batman is broke and Lucius Fox has all his money, and they're introducing the new policing force, the Peacemakers, who are going to, or Peacekeepers, who are putting the smackdown on masks in Gotham. And then Superman is about to stop being Superman, and John's going to take over, which was also something that happened during that time period. So I think they're still dealing with a lot of that. But the beauty of the Omniverse is you've got Crime Syndicate and Suicide Squad, which don't care at all about that 5-year pause.
Right.
And they're just doing, there's some tie in there, but they can kind of wander away and do whatever they kind of want to now, because the creative forces are allowed to do whatever they want. They've got an Omniverse to deal with. They don't have 52 Earths to choose from anymore.
Do you like it?
Like I said, I do. My fear is 5 years from now, there's going to be a destruction of the Omniverse, and it'll all collapse in, and it'll be one Earth again, and all that continuity gobbledygook goes right out the window. And I just want this to bake. It's kind of like if you're a football guy and you get a new quarterback, you're like, can you just let the guy learn the game and not trade him next year and get another new quarterback? So just let this Omniverse thing be for a while. And now with Jim Lee as the head guy, I hope that's true, because he's a creator, and maybe he'll just leave it be and let it do its thing. But my prediction is that this series, Infinite Frontier, is going to be a big deal at some point.
Orders are up. things are looking okay. It was a little dire there, with all the distributor issues last year during the lockdown. I have to wonder, a lot of this is driven by every single book having a cover B. So if you take that into account, how many duplicate copies are being purchased by guys like me,
Sure.
what is the actual readership? So it'll be interesting to kind of sit back and see how DC handles this. Now, meanwhile, SpiderMan's Dead.
Going back to the well again, Marvel is heading back into 90s territory. And for some reason, their love for the Clone Saga, which no one wants and asked for.
Oh, I'm telling you, there are hardcore Clone Saga fans out there that love them some Ben Reilly. We call them insane. They're out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I see them. There are people that love, they don't necessarily like the storyline, but they actually grew to like Ben Reilly. And here's why. I'm going to tell everybody a dirty little secret about why Ben Reilly has a fan base. Because it was what Spider-Man's supposed to be. Single, broke, relatable, not married to a supermodel.
Right.
A photographer or working at a coffee shop, whatever he was doing at the end there. And people go, oh, this is a cool character. Guess what? That's what Peter Parker used to be, folks.
Yeah, I know. But then they've got guys like me. Like, for instance, I loved the entire run of Spider-Girl because you got a married Peter Parker and a daughter who's a teenager, and they're doing really well, and they love each other. And like, I like that part just as much as I think people would love that. But anyway, like today I'm doing research on this, and one of the headlines was Ben Reilly, the character no one asked for. Like,
I'll dispute that. There are some Ben Reilly stands out there, man.
I guess, but so we're going back to that well. So Peter is going to die, allegedly.
Okay.
There's like scenes of Mary Jane at his deathbed, and then Ben's going to wear the suit. And it's fine. It's at least it's not sins past, I guess. Which is probably the worst thing I've ever actually caused me to stop collecting Spider-Man comic books for a while.
You were not.
Oh, good Lord. But yeah, so you're going to have Ben Reilly back. And in the meantime, over in Miles Morales' world, and I think Rich would love that I'm bringing this up because I know he's a big Miles guy.
How much Morales?
Miles and Miles of Morales. But he has his own Clone Saga going on right now. So, but to be fair, it's a much better written Clone Saga. He's got some clones of him that have all different powers because they've been experimented on. Yeah. And they broke free, and it's almost like a Blade Runner thing where they want to know like how much time they have left, and they're trying to keep themselves alive. And it's a misunderstanding thing, but now it seems like they're all on the same page. It's a way cleaner read than the Jackal and the Ben Reilly and all that stuff.
You say that because the Miles Morales book is the only one I really read.
Yeah.
It's well done, and I kind of look over. I know he was very divisive. I love Dan Slott. I love.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, and when that ended, I was like, okay, this is a good jumping off point. I did not get on board with Nick Spencer, who is people who watch the show know ruined Captain America for me again. Right. So I'm just not. It's interesting that Miles is getting some mileage. What? Stop, Dad.
I know.
Dad.
And the last really great Spider-Man stuff for me was Superior Spider-Man, which I thought was brilliant stuff, really good, very captivating. So for me now, as a completionist, and I've been invested in Spider-Man again, and here comes Ben Reilly, which caused me to wonder why I was buying books in the 90s.
Well, let's talk about your completionism. People don't realize, they know you as the DC guy, but you do much more than that.
Oh yeah.
And you've been in this as long as Richard and I. We have a shot of your collection that you sent me today. Tell me a little about this photo that's up there.
So got the basement finished. That's why there's no boxes behind me anymore. The last couple of times I've been on the show, it's been the bathroom pieces have been behind me. So the basement's done. And for the first time ever, my comic book collection is all in one place. And so
boxes or short boxes?
Those are long boxes.
Holy moly.
Yeah. So it's been fun. So it took me about 3 months to bag and board them a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have the ultimate pleasure of sorting them because they're not sorted at all.
Okay, I will fly to Ohio and help you sort them. I get to keep what I find.
Oh, hey, and while I was at it, look at this. Ready for this?
I'm ready. Oh, wow. Okay, there is, and for the people on the podcast, it's Superman and Spider-Man, the second Treasury edition.
Yeah, I forgot I even had it. So as I was looking through my stuff, I pulled that relic out. It's probably not in the best shape. I wouldn't even know how to grade the thing, honestly.
Oh, well, it's something that you had from your youth, so it's important, and it means a lot to you, and it's a relic, and it's more than 25 years old, which is my lame segue week two. Ready to do it with me? The 25-year rule. Yeah. In honor of Evan being here today, I picked one of his favorite books from that is Extreme Justice number 18, the last issue of Extreme Justice. Oh my goodness. DC's answer to Image Comics and the extreme 90s. I mean, this is like Macho Man Randy Savage snapping to a Slim Jim level of extreme.
Bring out the pouches and the spikes and the power armor. It is extreme in here right now.
This title replaced Justice League International, which was Justice League Europe before that.
The Bwahaha years, which were fantastic.
But why would you take the Bwahahas of the Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Captain Atom, throw in Maxima and Amazing Man, and make them the rebel team that rejects the Justice League's United Nations ties and takes matters into their own hands? Yeah, Blue and Gold are that kind of extreme vigilante guys.
Right, exactly.
Real good grasp of the characters there. I'm not making this up. As the title went on, they were later joined by the friggin' Wonder Twins, Zan and Jaina, in Extreme Justice. Now,
who are super extreme, by the way, Zan and Jaina.
What was going on in this book? Luckily, some sanity prevailed. All three Justice League books were canned, and a new JLA title, one title, written by Grant Morrison, was launched and kind of saved the farm.
Bringing back the Big Seven, mercifully.
Yes. Thank God somebody had some brains there in the DC editorial brain trust. So did you read Extreme Justice when it was out?
I think I have a couple copies. This is my beef with Extreme Justice. First of all, I was a huge All-Star Squadron fan.
Yes.
And Amazing Man,
good character,
was great and has never been used right since All-Star Squadron. So for him to be in this abomination is depressing as all get out. And then you add to that power armor that Booster is wearing, which just hurts my teeth to look at. And the additional layers of musculature on everyone where there are no muscles and people with torsos this big and legs this big, and
it got better near the end when Tom Morgan took over and kind of brought things a little bit down to earth in terms of the drawing and the art. But man, you look at those early issues and you're like, oh, this is like a focus group came in that, was in charge of Monster energy drinks. And they said, here's or Poochie on Itchy and Scratchy. And here's what you need to make this so much more extreme. The other sad thing is that this was being published around the same time as Total Justice. Do you know what Total Justice was? A toy line. And they had a tie-in that was actually written by friggin' Christopher Priest.
That's crazy.
The story was good, but poor Christopher Priest could have taken a real book, not a tie-in, and done something interesting with it. So,
yeah.
Nora, Extreme Justice, we don't miss you.
No, or the 90s for that matter. If this book was a Marvel book, Adam X would have been in it.
Oh my God. All right, time for a new feature. This is a new recurring feature we're going to have on the show where we spotlight comic book stores around the nation. I do a lot of traveling for work. Things are opening back up. Richard does some traveling. I'm sure Evan will do some traveling, and we're going to go visit some comic shops around this great nation and do a little spotlight. So for our first one this week, we're heading to sunny, scorching Palm Springs. So let's roll that beautiful bean footage. Hey, we are in Palm Springs. It is 115 degrees right now. It's hot. The collectibles market here is even hotter. We're going to visit this shop in downtown Palm Springs called Interstellar Comic Books. And we're going to meet the owner and take a look inside and let you guys know what it's like. Hey, I am here with, what's your name?
Steven.
Steven.
Yeah.
Steven, the owner and proprietor of Interstellar Comic Books in Palm Springs. And you, so this store's been here for a while.
Been here, it was established in 2015.
And you just bought it last year.
Bought it January 1st, 2020.
Great
time to buy a comic book store.
We had someone else on the show 3 weeks ago that opened a shop in January 2020.
Oh,
and
okay.
He ended up having to do curbside deliveries. Like, he would drive to people's houses. How did you get through?
Well, the first, when the COVID hit, I was able to stay open a little bit, and then I was doing the same thing. I was either meeting at the back door, curbside, and I did do delivery comic book service as well. One of my customers even said, "Oh, you should have pizza." I'm like, "Oh, that's a thought." Fortunately, I did have to close. Unfortunately, because Diamond closed.
Right.
And then we all know what happened during that, the chaos that ensued. But actually, since I reopened, I've been busier ever since.
I have to say, I've been here when the prior owners had it. You have stepped up your game considerably. I mean, if you guys are in Palm Springs, you've got to check this out. A huge selection of new comics, lots of indies that no one else carries, that people are hesitant to carry more than 1 or 2 pool copies of. You actually have them on the shelf. Lots of Radiant Black, for example. So what do you think the biggest changes you made here when you took it over?
Oh, well, I upped the order quite a bit. I tried to up my regular pull customer base right away. I doubled it within the first month or 2.
How'd you do that?
Just asking people when they come in, if they're buying stuff, "Hey, do you live in town? You might want to consider pull service. There's no obligation. You save a little bit of money." That upped my more walk-in crowd base. And then I was a little hesitant to start buying collections pre-COVID. This sounds backwards because I had just bought the business, so I was kind of on a budget. And then after COVID, everyone was coming in, and I'm so glad I did it because we made so much money, and
You're probably buying books at, I don't know, 50 cents a piece and sell them in the shop for 40 bucks.
I had the first appearance of Black Panther in here, Fantastic Four, a couple months, 2 months ago, I think. Yeah, and I went sold that for $500, and I bought the collection of all these old Fantastic Fours, Avengers, Defenders, Amazing Spider-Mans for $500. So
that's amazing.
Paid for itself.
So what inspired you to take over the shop?
It's just, I've worked in the fitness industry for 25 years. I was looking for a way out. I just wanted to change. And then I found out from the other comic book store in Palm Desert that this was for sale, because that's where I used to shop. Thanks, Sid. That it was for sale, and I was coming into some money from the passing of my dad, and I thought, this is a sign. Because he used to take me to the comic book store all the time as a kid. So
that's awesome.
And I just thought this would be great because I can do that, and then when I'm ready to retire, I can just sit in the comic book store.
So what do you like that you carry, or what differentiates you?
Well, I think we have a huge wall of trade paperbacks. A lot of comic book stores might have a little section of them. That's our bread and butter for the most part.
Really?
We get a lot of people on their way to the airport, which is just down the street, that don't want to carry a stack of comic books on the plane, so they'll buy a couple trade paperbacks.
Right.
We've always, the previous owner used to do a little special on them, so I carried that special on, saying if you buy 2, you get the third one half price. That usually is a winning deal. And the previous owner did not buy old collections, and his selection was limited. So like I said, I've just been, this whole is a collection I bought, and I've just keep adding to it.
I see you got apparel now, like custom apparel, which is target marketed, I will say. I'll get a few shots for you guys. And I think you've done a good job of expanding the back issues, because I just went through and I just had a whole stack. So congratulations. Tell everybody the name of the shop again and where it is.
Interstellar Comic Books on Tuckwoods Canyon, right in the heart of downtown Palm Springs, right off Indian and Tuckwoods Canyon.
Facebook, Instagram?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I don't have a website yet, but that's next on
Awesome.
our list. So.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Good to see you.
All right, so check out Interstellar Comics next time the travel bug takes you all the way to Palm Springs. Hopefully, it will not be 120 degrees there, which it was for me this weekend.
Wow.
Time for our underrated books of the week. Evan, take it away.
All right, I'm going to throw a curveball this week.
I love
because I'm not going to mention a DC book.
Ooh, okay, go ahead.
And I'm not going to mention a Marvel book.
Even better.
So I think this has come up on your show before, but it bears repeating because I'm going to tell you, when I first started collecting comics, there was a guy selling books out of his garage.
Oh, wow.
What was his? I can't, North Star Comics. And in Fairview, Ohio, of all places. And I, at the time, because books were so cheap, I would pick everything. And so that's how I wound up getting into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and some of the other odd indie books, American Flag and some other things.
I love American Flag.
Oh, love American Flag. So anyway, cover of this book catches my eye. And I'm thinking to myself, this kind of looks like the Fantastic Four, only cooler. So I buy Comico Elementals #1.
Ah, yes, the UFOs.
Yeah, good reference. Another deep cut. As I'm reading it, talk about a wild origin book. Every member who gets their powers, and each one of them has a power after one of the elements, because that's the name, dies to get their abilities. So Fathom drowns and Vortex asphyxiates. It's crazy, but the look, I think, of those characters was really something. Like it's almost like the Authority, where you go, who are these guys? This is a great look.
Kind of, I don't know if you would say DC ripped them off by making that you have to die in a violent way to become one of the elementals, because that's what happened with Firestorm when he was a fire elemental. True. You know, but Alec Holland was first, so who knows? But Elementals, Bill Willingham.
Yeah. Oh, the writing was great, and the storyline was pretty intense. I love the fact that Monolith was a kid. Yeah. But he had like the Thing-sized body, so that was pretty cool. It's like a little Shazam thing there almost.
You mean like Badrock? Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody rip that off too? Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. This book could have inspired a lot of different things, but
it was a hugely popular book. People forget about Elementals. It started off as a backup in Justice Machine, and then got spun off into its own title. And it was Comico's, or Comico, depending on who you talk to.
Right.
Comico's flagship title for a long time. It was their bestseller for sure. I was running a shop at the time, I can tell you.
Yeah, it's funny because when you and I were talking about it earlier, you brought up Grendel, and I'm like, oh, I remember Grendel. And Grendel actually wound up becoming kind of bigger because Grendel had a Batman tie-in and some other things. And there were a couple Grendels, right? A man and a woman. There was like a couple of them.
Here's what happened to Elementals, why it's so forgotten and kind of in limbo. It's a legal mess. Matt Wagner was smart enough to share the copyright for Grendel with Comico. When Comico got bought by this other guy, Matt Wagner negotiated his way back to getting 100% back. But it took years. There was that Batman Grendel crossover was done for about 6 years and sat in a drawer until all the legal morass was worked out. Now, Elementals, you ask someone who owns the rights to Elementals, and you'll have 5 different fingers pointing 5 different ways. So it's just in limbo. No one can revive this poor property because of all of the legal entanglements. It's a shame.
Yeah, what a mess. And the reason it's a shame is because you got to be careful with visually striking characters if the writing's not there.
Right.
Because I've gotten sucked into that many times where I'm like, oh, these guys look amazing, and then I read the book, I'm like, this book is terrible. There's some image books that I can think of off the top of my head that have that going for them.
Speaking of being sucked in, did you keep reading it when they started doing all the Elemental sex specials?
So it's funny because while I was reading up on Elementals to refresh my memory, my eyes go down the wiki page to these sex specials, and all I could think of was, how hardcore were those special? I don't remember ever seeing them. I've seen like X-Men swimsuit issues. Those were pretty risque, but like they didn't have the word sex in the title. That's pretty.
Well, they went there. It was that whole time of Eros comics and adult only comics, and it's just so far away. Again, we're talking about straying so far from the core concept that
Wow.
That's what happened to Elementals. It kind of went out with a whimper, but not a bang.
Oh, John. No, John. No, John.
I'm so pleased with myself. Bad.
Yeah, but that's my underrated book because I think at least the first like 6 issues are so good. Yeah. And then it got to the point where I couldn't afford all the titles on the shelves anymore, and so that's one of the reasons I dropped it. It's not because I didn't care about it anymore. I just ran out of juice. But
when Bill Willingham left, he took the soul with him. It was over.
Yeah, that happens plenty of times. I could think of like the Thunderbolts was so great, and then there was a run where they were like MMA fighters or whatever. Like,
oh my god!
If a new creator comes in, they can really screw things up quick.
Yeah, when you just use the name and you just trash everything else but the name.
Yeah,
don't be surprised when everybody drops the book and it only runs 6 issues.
Marvel. Right.
All right, my underrated book this week is Marvel Superheroes number 14. We've talked about this title, the Doctor Doom issue number 20. We've talked about the Black Knight issue. Now this is the issue of this tryout book that featured none other than Spider-Man. It was originally done for a fill-in for the main Amazing Spider-Man title when John Romita had injured his wrist. Luckily, John recovered in time to finish drawing the next issue, so it wasn't used, and so they dumped it here. It is significant because this is the first time Ross Andrew ever drew Spider-Man, and he would go on to almost draw the entire run in the 1970s for Amazing Spider-Man. It is a tough black cover. It is hard engraved, and 8.5 sold this month for less than $100.
Oh, wow.
Somebody jumped on it and made an offer, and it got accepted. The Massachusetts Pedigree, which was a 9.2, sold last October for just $150. This is insanely low, considering it came out the same month as Amazing Spider-Man number 60, which sells for multiples of this. I just don't think people know about this book, or they see the cover and they go, well, what the heck is this? So if you are a Spider-Man guy, Evan, and you don't have a copy of Marvel Superheroes 14, get one now while they're cheap.
Yeah, at that price, absolutely affordable. And to your point, how often does that happen to a collector? You know, you're following the main run, and then all of a sudden there's this one-off or 3-issue limited series. You're looking at your funds and you go, I could live without it. And that's probably what happened with that book.
For sure. And if you think about it coming out the same month as Amazing Spider-Man 60, you wouldn't hesitate to jump on a Amazing Spider-Man 60 for $100.
Right.
So why not this? All right. That is going to do it for us this week. Thank you, Evan. Everybody give Evan a round of applause for joining us. You sat right in that chair like you belong there.
Well, thank you for having me. And anytime you guys need my services, I am here, and I can talk about comic books until your heads fall off. So by all means, you've seen my collection. I have a breadth of information and knowledge. So absolutely happy to be here, and anytime. I'd love it.
You absolutely have the bona fides. Remind everybody where they can find us.
At Bronze and Modern Gods on Instagram and Facebook.
And also at bronzeandmoderngods.com. Thanks again, Evan. We will see all of you later this week.